Nobody is in a maximum security prison because they committed a traffic offense. These men are serious. This is where men are put to death. It's also where men die. Out of the 1,850 men who are incarcerated here, 70% of them are murderers. 30% are on psychotropic drugs. So when I had a class of 20, I said to them, gentlemen, these are the statistics. So there's a good chance one among you is a psycho killer. As soon as you guys figure out which one of you it is, you stay between him and me, okay?
Delonda Hartman is a 73-year-old grandmother who teaches English, poetry, creative writing at Indiana State Prison, a maximum security facility.
You're too young for this kind of moment.
Really, I am.
That's a senior moment there, buddy. That's all I can say.
She always finds the best in people. Nobody would be safe to say anything negative about Mrs. Hartman. Nobody. Not I, not other staff, not other prisoners. You know, they simply adore her.
And it says he made $10 a week. How much is coffee now?
I'm paying $7 a jar.
Well, you're in prison, for pity's sakes.
And I make $7 a week, so I'm spending a week's
wages on a jar of coffee.
Miss Hartman is my favorite teacher. I love her to death. I've minored in English. I've always had a love for writing, but you know, Miss Hartman seems to grasp each one of her students and genuinely is concerned with his growth and his learning capabilities, and she's hands-on. You can tell that she really cares about her students, and I like that.
The inmates here, I mean, always address her as Mrs. Hartman. I mean, that's the respect that she has earned in here, you know, and it's always either Professor Hartman or Mrs. Hartman.
Miss Hartman, she's a beautiful, wonderful, she's quite an exceptional teacher. She pours her heart and soul into this program.
Mrs. Hartman is easily one of the most caring people I know.
Well, I'm just really proud of you. I want you to know that.
Nobody, you know, I've heard that 3 times in my life, and twice it's been from you.
Well, I'm proud of you. You're a good student.
She honestly cares about us, the offenders in here as a whole, and she doesn't pick favorites. She doesn't care what you're in here for. She just cares.
This is a place that drives people crazy, and education's the answer to that. Aristotle said the difference between an educated man and an uneducated man is the difference between the living and the dead. And our students are living, and I think that's the matter. That's really what matters. How hard was it to do the Road to Perdition?
It was from the Patriot to the Road to Perdition, it was like night and day journeys. They were very, very much different. What he was doing was wrong, but his journey wound up being that of him trying to keep his son from traveling the road to perdition because of the subsequent lifestyle that he was living. So
people misjudge these men. They have made serious mistakes, but many of them are truly being rehabilitated here.
Once I saw the people around me who were already participating in the educational program, it seemed like that they were having a good time. They were learning, and they were feeling better about themselves, and they were able to assist other people, which in turn makes you feel better about yourself. I mean, the time cut isn't going to do me any good. I'm supposed to get out the day before I turn 78. So with the time cut, I'm going to get out the day before I turn 75.
Well, there you go.
And historically, Vermillions don't live too much past 62.
So you get out after you're dead.
Even in the consideration. But, I mean, I wanted to get an education.
How about you, Mr. Fields?
I was one of those guys that thought I had the world all figured out. I thought I knew everything, couldn't nobody teach me nothing. And, after I got here, my initial introduction to the education department was the time cut. But after my first couple semesters, I found a renewed joy in education. It was so much I didn't know about the world and so much that I was learning. that it excited me.
Is that neat?
Yeah.
Isn't that, and does it make you feel better about yourself?
Even if I don't have class, I just like being in the atmosphere, you know, just knowing that there's some learning going on.
And how about you, Mr. Smith?
One of the best things about education was at the past graduation when I got up and I was one of the keynote speakers. And while I was up there, I looked out into the audience and I caught my mother's eyes and she was out there crying.
Yeah.
You know, and here I am 37 years old and I'm graduating from college, and finally after 37 years, I get to see my mother have some tears of joy rather than tears of sorrow and sadness.
Those guard towers, every time I see them, I get a tight place in my stomach. I come up here every week with another Ball State professor. It's Jerry Waite, who teaches anthropology.
Farrar doesn't talk so much about problems. Farrar and college-educated people bring back college-educated ideas.
And he is one of the most amazing men I know.
Who were educated in the early
I really, really try to address people as they are right now in the present and say, we've got a chance to do something now. So let's take it and run with it. It has nothing to do with where we've been. It has nothing to do with how we got raised or what we didn't have. It has to do with where we are right here and right now. And we can do something with that. The cost to incarcerate a felon for 1 year in Indiana is over $30,000 a year. These people cost us serious, serious money. Students who have education in prison reoffend at a rate of less than 3%, where the national rate's close to 70%. The only proven method of rehabilitation at this point is education. If redemption is not possible, then none of my Christian values mean anything. And people change. People change. People change by their own willingness. People change by their own work. People change by the grace of God. But people change.
I've always had the potential to excel, but I never tapped into that. And once I got involved with the college education, I learned another side of me, a side that could be professional, a side that could be exceptional. You know, I didn't have to maintain that criminal mentality. I didn't have to become a stereotype that so many men in here become.
To me, education is kind of a spiritual thing because it keeps me sane. It keeps me busy. It keeps me out of prison.
You get one shot at this, you know, and you had good or bad, you know, even though we're in prison, you know, and the possibility of me ever leaving this place is remote, but it's still life,
Okay.
you know, and, you know, I live by the philosophy that this is the only shot that I'm going to get. You know, whether there's a God or not, or whether I'm going to go to heaven or hell or whatever person believes, the fact is that I'm here right now. I'm not going to be able to come back again, so why not get as much out of it as I possibly can?
Well, I think Matt Stidham is one of my very best students. He was a ward of the court at 12 because of an abusive family relationship. His stepmother was arrested 3 times for abuse. And so you have this very angry, bright boy who's never known any kind of solid affection in his entire life, who got into a lot of trouble. He committed a heinous crime with 3 other teenagers. There's no two ways about that. Matt thought that if he demanded a trial, he'd be able to prove he had not been the one who did it. Instead, the 2 accomplices who copped a plea will get out. If he had taken the plea, he would be out in a few years. But he was young and stupid. He knows better now, but you don't go back and change anything. There's no rewind button on life.
And I let drinking and a mixture of not caring get me in trouble. And I ended up with 138 years in prison. And probably won't ever get out. Just because I didn't care. But, I mean, that's something I have to live with. And something I regret every day.
What do you want when you send someone to prison? Do you want rehabilitation or do you want revenge? If you want revenge, you're certainly getting it when you keep somebody in there from the time he was 17 years old and he's 32 and he has nothing to look forward to. That's revenge. I think you've finally gotten that.
When I graduated college, you know, and I walked across the stage and I received my diploma, you know, I got to thinking that, you know, if I was free and I was on Ball State campus walking across this stage getting this diploma, there's a job or something waiting, you know, out there for me. But walking across the stage in the prison with 138 years, I mean, you have the sense of accomplishment that you would have if you were free, but what you don't have is the sense of what do I do next? Where can I take, you know, what I've gained as far as education and apply it? I mean, it's a hard thing to do, and that's one of the biggest regrets I've, you know, it puts into focus, you know, the fact that I'm going to be here probably for the rest of my life.
If you want rehabilitation, if you say that, then you have to accept the possibility that people can change. He's kind, he's strong, he's gentle. I look at him and I think, how could this be that we can incarcerate kids and never take into consideration the fact that a 32-year-old man is not the 16-year-old boy who committed that crime? If anybody's been rehabilitated, it's Matt Stidham.
English 414 was cool, but still tough. Miss Hartman, I had problems reading all that stuff.
Many of my students, when they got into trouble, were kids, teenagers with absent or severely abusive parents.
Looking for a so I could Fahrenheit 451.
And now, here in prison with much needed structure, discipline, they've become grown men who have finally discovered the joy of learning, discovery, and self-worth.
Miss Hartman, thank you for the memories, and I hope you have a blessed life.
For one thing, he's much smarter than Othello, right? Right? I didn't say George Bush, you guys. I told you guys I always wanted to play a big house here, so. I think probably teaching here has been one of the great privileges of my life. I'm so grateful to Ball State for having given me the chance to do this. Exceedingly grateful.